Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Copilot Compass, where each week we take a deep dive into Microsoft 365 Copilot. As always, I have the pleasure of being joined by my esteemed colleague, fellow Copilot enthusiast, and resident smart guy, Logan.
Thanks, Grant. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And Logan, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about what they can expect from this week's episode?
Yeah, so this week we'll start off with question of the week as always. And remember that you can submit your own question if you leave a comment on the video or just click the link and send us an email. And then we're going to get to our topic of the week, which is Outlook. So just going to go over a bunch of use cases of Copilot and Outlook. It should be exciting. And make sure you stay tuned to the end where you can get a sneak peek of what we're going to cover next. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
Awesome. All right. Well, shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. So our question of the week is, how is Copilot enhance collaboration with colleagues?
Yeah, good question. And that collaboration is a big piece for us because, we have a uh, primarily remote team. We've got folks spread throughout the US as well as globally. So I'd say there's two really good use cases for us to discuss. The first one is the integration with Loop. And let's take an example of, we're preparing to meet with a customer for the first time, or maybe there's been some initial discussions and we're having a broader conversation with them. There's going to be a lot of folks that need to be involved in prepping and briefing for that meeting. We might have, depending on where this lead came from, it could be our account team side, or it could be somebody in our marketing and outbound sales side that's probably got, maybe had some initial contact or some background on the customer. But we've also got, our market research team that's going to be, hopefully using Copilot to do it, but they're going to be collecting some background information for us on the customer, like where are they located, what industry are they in, size of the company, that publicly available information. And then we're also going to have our services delivery team that's going to be involved with providing, maybe some solutions that they're working on that they'd like us to bring up, or it could be, some customer stories or other solutions that we've done in the past that might be relevant for what they would suggest we bring up in this meeting. And so, again, there's a lot of folks that are have their hands on this meeting briefing. So with Loop, now we can have, let's say that market research person, they do their bit of it, and then they're putting it in Loop, and they can start adding in the other stakeholders, pulling them in, adding comments, and we have a little bit easier to use, essentially a OneNote on steroids. The other big one for us has been in our meetings, and in particular with prepping for the meetings. Before, there was oftentimes we have meetings where there'd be, a title of the meeting, which, maybe the other people or maybe they don't understand exactly what's supposed to be discussed, and there's not really a lot of background in there. So now with Copilot, if we have a scenario where there's a long email chain that we've decided it's going to, better to have a discussion over a call, which is actually a scenario we're going to discuss coming up here. But now we can use Copilot instead of just having, a quick meeting invite with a topic and nothing else in there. We can use Copilot to propose for us an agenda, provide a quick summary of the background of the conversation we're going to have, and then, it will add in relevant files and information that it thinks will be useful for us. So now, we're not going into the meeting and having to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes level setting for everybody and bringing everybody up to speed. But instead, with Copilot, we've provided a more efficient invite to the meeting where, people can kind of go into it with the right set of expectations, saving us some time in the call itself. What about you, Logan? I mean, shoot, you've been a recipient, a user of some of these scenarios. What do you think? What has been some of the best collaboration pieces on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, Loop has been great. I've really been enjoying a lot of the features that they have. Super simple to use, and you can add all sorts of things like polls and questions and comments, and it really makes the collaboration process a lot easier. It just really feels like we're all working on the same document. We're all very aware of who's making what changes. So yeah, I've been really enjoying using it. Yeah.
No, it almost feels more like we're all in the same room on a whiteboard. It's kind of that experience. So awesome. All right. Yeah, I think this was a great question. But with that in mind, are we ready to dive in and talk a little bit about Outlook?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So our topic of the week, as we mentioned, is Outlook. So Outlook really has a lot of good, early adoption and first use cases for Copilot. I'm thinking back to, before Copilot was a part of my life, we've got a pretty strong offshore presence here. So I'm often waking up to several hundred emails, and my old way of, going through my mailbox is, I'm getting online, firing at my computer, and then I'm kind of working through, a first in, first out type of approach. Where I'm going to start with the messages I got, overnight, and then work my way through the evening into the early morning hours. And depending on how early my meetings were starting for the day or how much email I had to work my way through, sometimes I'm not, and I'd say most of the time, I'm not getting through my mailbox by the time my first meeting starts. And the problem with this approach is that, it's good that I'm getting, to older items first, but those aren't always high priority items. There might be something that, can wait a couple of weeks. It's down there at the bottom. But then there's something really urgent that came in an hour ago. And, if I'm going back to back to back meetings in those early morning hours, I might be missing that high priority item unless somebody happens to ping me on Teams. So, now with Copilot, we're able to more efficiently sort through mailboxes, get to those high priority items first, and take, rather than a first in, first out, more of high priority first, low priority, later in the day as time becomes available. But for the purposes of today and our demos today, we're going to focus more on sort of individual emails rather than Outlook as a whole. I think we'll cover Outlook as a whole as kind of a bigger topic, probably a good topic for a future episode. But today we've got 3 demos for you. We're going to first show you how to summarize long email threads. As I mentioned, we've got a big offshore presence. So oftentimes, I might send a question out to an offshore delivery team. And then all of a sudden, we've got a couple of people, what started out as 3 people in an email thread with a simple enough question. All of a sudden there's 7 or 8 folks. The thread is forked. New people are getting pulled in, and, it can get quite complicated. And those email threads can get long, and they're hard to read through that long, those long threads. So we'll show how you can use Copilot to summarize long emails and threads. We're also going to show, we talked earlier when you asked about collaboration, we talked a little bit about the long thread that's turned into a meeting. So we'll show how you can leverage Copilot to take those longer email threads and then quickly and easily create a really good meeting invite. And then finally, we're going to show how you can draft emails with Copilot, how you can sort of get started, get some ideas, and, those emails that might need a quick response, they can get much, much quicker with Copilot. Logan, what are some of your favorite things about Outlook and Copilot?
Yeah, it's sort of Outlook adjacent, but with your Outlook or Teams meetings. I love being able to basically query and summarize the meetings after the fact. It's very helpful because obviously you're not going to remember everything, and sometimes you think of specific questions that you wish you asked during the meeting, or and you can basically interact with the meeting via Copilot after the fact. It's extremely helpful, and yeah, something I use quite a bit.
Yeah, no, well put, Logan. Yeah, Outlook adjacent, but yeah, no, for sure, definitely something that we use quite often.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, are you ready to dive in and head up to the crow's nest?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right, so for our first crow's nest today, we're going to talk about summarizing long email threads using Copilot. So let's start by setting the stage here. I was out on vacation last week, and while I was out, the team has started some preparations for an upcoming round of quarterly business reviews, or QBRs, with one of our customers that's based in Chicago. We've got a few things to discuss and iron out. We got to figure out, when is everybody going to be available for travel? Does anybody have suggestions on where we stay while we're in town? Of course, we're going to start talking about the agenda. What are we going to discuss with them? What do we want to disclose to them as far as what we're working on next? And then lastly, and most importantly, in my opinion, where are we going to eat while we're in town? I mean, Chicago is a great food city. So now, pre-Copilot, what I'd have to do here, I have 2 options. So I could either, spend 10 or 15 minutes and read through this long email thread that's likely forked. People reply to maybe some of the questions, not all of them, and then come back later to answer others or bring new opinions to the table. So I could, spend 10, 15 minutes reading through and catching up on everything in this one single thread, or I could just skim it, spend 2 minutes, go through, see if I can catch the key points. But then I risk, walking into my next meeting lacking some context that I missed because I skimmed. So have no fear, Copilot here to the rescue for us in this scenario. So this is a scenario that we've kind of put together for us here. We can see the thread's already forked at least once. We've got a few different emails going back and forth here. And now I've got a few options as far as how I can interact with Copilot from here. So in the upper part of this taskbar here, upper right, you can see that Copilot icon. I can certainly click on that and it's going to give me that right pane sort of chat function that we've seen in other Office apps. But I've also got this line right here for summary by Copilot. So I'll go ahead and just select that. It's going to skim through the thread and it's going to provide me with a quick and easy summary for me to make sure that I don't have to spend, a section of my morning catching up on everything, but I don't risk, also going into the meeting without context. Now, I may also have follow-up items here. So I have got this Ask Copilot icon that I can select, and then it's going to give me, that right pane option here. It's got some prompts it's going to suggest for me, but I might ask it something like, are there any, if I could type, any action items for me in this thread? And then it's going to, gather those responses, comb through the thread, see where my name may have been called out. So it's given me a couple of things I need to do. I need to confirm my travel dates, and then I'm responsible for making a reservation at this restaurant. So it looks like the team has already made that selection for me. So now, I can quickly go back into this thread. I know what they've already decided. I can just say, hey, you know what? I am available on September 23rd. That date looks good to me. And yes, I will handle making that reservation. So save good savings here of, probably 15 minutes in this particular scenario. Okay, so our second crow's nest, we're gonna, a scenario I think we've all can relate to. We've had a long thread that's gone back and forth, and we've decided, you know what, it'd just be more efficient if we jump on a call and discuss this. So Copilot can help us with this as well. Now I'm going to use this same email thread. Again, this is our QBR discussions that we're preparing for a meeting with a client there in Chicago. So I've decided, you know what? I have feedback on the restaurant the team chose. I don't like that place. I want to go somewhere else. So I want to have a discussion around it. Or, hey, those dates might not work for me. So I'm going to turn this thread into a meeting. And what I can see here is right above this, I can see this schedule with Copilot option up here in this taskbar. So I'll go ahead and select that. And what it's going to do for me is it's going to pull up a calendar invite. It's going to do some thinking in here. It's going to show, my calendar up here. It's got the suggested title for us. It's going to pull in the folks that are in the thread as attendees. I will come back to the time thing here, but it's also going to have for us, it's going to pull in a suggested agenda based on the conversation that we've had. And it's going to summarize the conversation so far. So no longer do I have to go back to the email thread to make sure I'm caught up. Now it's right here for me in the agenda. If I've only got like a minute or I'm running slightly late, I can pull this up. I can see what's on the table for discussion and catch up on that summary with just a short moment's notice. And if I do want to take that deeper dive, Copilot has pulled in that actual email thread as an attachment here. Now, the one thing is Copilot is going to pull in a nearest available time slot for everybody's availability. So to look at our calendars and suggest us a time that's coming up soon to discuss. The one thing with this is, for us, we kind of internally, as a best practice, we're going to try to schedule meetings at least 24 hours in advance to make sure that people have time to prepare and, prioritize accordingly. Sometimes, if we're doing this in the morning time, it may suggest for us like an afternoon time slot if, people are available for it. So you can certainly still just adjust this by using the scheduling assistant as you always have to find a more convenient slot if it's not a super high priority, super urgent meeting that needs to be discussed. In addition to all of this agenda in summary, like let's say, in this case, when I looked at the summary, we've already discussed the dinner and all I need to do is have that scheduled. So we don't need to discuss this on the agenda. I can certainly still edit this. So I can just go ahead and click insert. I'll take the text it's gotten for me so far. And I can certainly, just take out agenda items if I want. I can edit the summary if there's things that maybe we feel are redundant or we want to add to what Copilot has given us. All of this is customizable. And then as soon as I'm ready to send, I just go ahead and click send. And we have ourselves a pretty good little, Outlook invite for the team. Okay, so for our third and final crow's nest for this week's episode, we're going to demonstrate how you can use Copilot to draft emails more efficiently and, quite frankly, make them sound a little bit better. So let's say I've got a brand new email that I want to open up here, and I will pop this up so that you guys can see this a little bit easier. I'll maximize this out. So there's a few ways that I can interact with Copilot in a new email. First, I can see here that there's just this simple draft with Copilot button that I can click. It's going to give me some prompts, suggested prompts to get me started. Now, let's say I want to ask Logan to provide an update on the status of a project and to let me know what the team is working on next. I'm quickly running between meetings. I don't want this to sound short and, like as if I don't have the time for Logan. So I want Copilot to help me quickly get an email that looks a little bit better. So it's going to give me an option to start with here, and then I can certainly provide it with a good amount of coaching. So I can keep it, I can discard it, say, you know what, I'm going to write this myself. I can retry, have it use the same prompt, give me another option. I can make it shorter if I want. In this case, maybe let's say I want to make it a little bit longer. It's going to give itself a second crack. I can see this give me a new option, slightly longer here. I can also change the tone. Let's say, Logan and I have a good relationship. I want it to be a casual tone. So again, it's giving me that other option. Now, let's say I want to go ahead and keep it. And then I've got a start here. I'm never going to just click send right away. I'm going to now kind of read through this at least and see, do I need to make this, change the tone here a little bit? Maybe it's misrepresented anything. Lots of reasons that you want to do that, but we'll just want to make sure this is a starting place for us, not the finish line. Now, let's say also that as I'm kind of working through this process, I've thought of, you know what, I also want Logan to tell me or to give me an update on this, like a proof of concept that they're working on with this customer. So I can still, rather than having it provide me the whole text, I can have it do sections for me by clicking right here in this Copilot icon. I just right click, that icon pops up for me. And now I want it to add a question to Logan to provide an update on the proof of concept he is working on. Now it's gonna get what it's done for me is it's sort of rewritten this email. I could ask it to insert below if I liked what I had before, and then simply delete that, extra material that's duplicated. And then again, as usual, I kind of have those same options here: make it shorter, make it longer, change the tone, retry if I didn't like what it's given me. So this is one really great way to use Copilot in a brand new email. Um, Now, let's say I've got this particular email. We're back to this thread here where we're planning our QBR with Healing Horizons. So now I'm back from vacation. I can just use this draft with Copilot. I'm going to say a short and friendly email that says I'm available on September 23rd to travel and confirm that I have made reservations for the restaurant. And of course, Copilot is going to recognize my inability to type correctly. So it's going to, again, give me a quick and easy response. I'm back from vacation. I got lots of emails I've got to go through. I no longer had to spend the time writing this up. I've got Copilot to give me a good starting place. I'm going to read through it. And, one thing for me is that people will know that I am upset if I haven't included at least one smiley face in an email. So instead of that exclamation point, I'm going to change that. The other thing too is if your organization is using signatures, like an Outlook signature like I have here, Copilot is still going to give you, a quick thank you here at the end with your name in it. So you're just going to want to go ahead and delete that out since I have my signature there. And now I'm ready to send. One other point that I do want to just very quickly discuss too is that, like, let's say I had written this email from scratch myself, but I wanted some feedback on it. There is a coaching by Copilot icon here for me that's going to kind of analyze through that, and it's going to give me some coaching points on the tone. What was my tone here? If maybe there's an email that somebody's given me that is not great news, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being rude or harsh to the person that, I don't want to shoot the messenger, as the phrase goes. So it can give me some coaching on my tone, the sentiment, was my email clear, and it's going to give me those coaching points and suggestions to make sure, especially with those high important, high visibility emails that, I'm really representing myself well, and Copilot's there to help me with that. So that's an example of using Copilot as you're drafting emails and responses. In today's journey of the Copilot Compass, we talked about one of the best out-of-the-box ROIs for Copilot, Outlook. We touched briefly on how you can use Copilot to kind of highlight high priority items that are in your inbox or summarize your inbox as a whole. But again, that's something that we're going to touch on in more detail in a future episode. But we had 3 demos for you today. First, we talked about how you can use Copilot to summarize long email threads and then ask questions about that thread. We also showed how you can use Copilot to turn an email thread into a meeting with a good agenda, summary, and pulling in the right and relevant files and information for the desired attendees. And then lastly, we talked about drafting emails with Copilot, whether it's a response or a net new email, how you can use Copilot to draft either sections of emails or entire emails. And we also showed the coaching points that Copilot can provide you as you finish up those drafts.
Yeah, hopefully you found these demos helpful. And if you did, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, and comment. Also, remember that we're going to do our question of the week at the beginning of every episode. So put a comment in about any questions you have, or email us at copilot@ilink-systems.com. We'll have a new episode out for you guys next Tuesday, and stay tuned to get a sneak preview of what we're going to be covering.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.